Hello War of the Visions fans, I'm Jackie Fox, and especially if you are brand new to the game, like first 7 days, you're probably wondering, how do you get a great start in the game? You may have heard me say that new players have an amazing start. You may have even seen people complaining about how good of a start that is in the comments. And for all those players that are taking issue with this because, you know, it took them a long time to get where they are and they feel like these banners are just too good, there's a lot of building up that you do in this game. And I think it's unfair to have a brand new person in 2024 do all of that themselves. While this is an amazing start, and we'll talk about how to make the most of it, I made a spreadsheet for your start for every element, who you probably want to be going for, who you want to be getting on each of these selection picks, because there's from 9 to 11. Wow. So like 9/11. Wow, awkward. There's a lot of selecta pulls, and so for one, for some of the reasons I just implicated, I wouldn't really think of this as a reroll guide. I mean, that's going to get the people to watch it who need to watch it, but I don't think you as a WotV player should reroll if you're already playing and have been for more than 6 months and figured out how to get limited units to 140. People who have a bunch of like level 89 limited units, especially ones I had to pull for, that just makes me sad. I feel like you've wasted your account in a way. But probably only like 5% of the people watching are actually going to have this problem enough that they should reroll because of this. And about 35% of you is going to think that you're that 5%. So that's unfortunate. But so you probably shouldn't reroll. But if you are a new player, this is how you make the most of this and get yourself as close to competitive as you can within, like, I don't know, 2 hours maybe. And I'm going to be showing you the footage of me doing it. This is also going to be a really poorly paced Cloud pulls video because I will be going for Cloud. I'm going to be taking the Cloud path here for the most part. And let's start talking about the paths and what you should be doing. So there's going to be 9 pulls that I'm talking about here, and I'm going to give 2 additional suggestions. There are very inexpensive options if you actually pay real, well, they don't have to be US dollars, but like actual cash money into the game. $1 will get you one of these pulls. I think the other one's probably going to run you like 20 or 30, and you're really starting to understand at this point whether or not you actually want to spend money in this game. But I think the one, especially the one that's like 99 cents, that's only 60 paid biz, that's... I think a lot of people should probably go for that, just to get one extra pull. But I'm going to assume that you didn't. And the second reason I don't like calling this a reroll guide is because there's not a ton of randomness here. Like, you can select a unit on 9 to 11 of these banners, and those are the ones I'm going to be covering. So there's not a lot of randomness here. But at the same time, there are units that you may not be getting from these pull selections that you will want still, and there is some RNG in that. You know, basically getting the third ideal partner for a lot of teams, I think, requires a little bit of RNG, so maybe there is a reason to try this process a couple of times in that traditional re-rolling sense, but I don't know, they're just handing you so many things that you're going to want that it just seems like one roll through this, what if you think it out first, as I'm going to show you today, you're going to do great. So first, 2 things that I want to say here. I think... Yeah, I think in every path I make 2 of the same recommendations, and I really should have put Chaos Bahamut. By the way, these are going to be the Dark Espers. They aren't actually called Chaos Espers in game, that's just a concept from Final Fantasy. We know what they are. We know a Dark Esper is a Chaos Esper, but you may not. These are going to be called like Dark Bahamut. I think it was like Stygian Conqueror or something. Dark Bahamut. This is, so for one, you're going to notice a lot of the Dark Espers on this list because their vision cards are applicable to 2 elements. Usually an element that has a direct synergy with the one that you're playing. And they're really strong in that respect. They're the best elemental vision cards. They're the best cards generally applicable in the game. They're not quite as strong as job VCs, but they fit more people and they're easier to push into teams, and you can build at this point entire teams around just these cards that are really, really maximally flexible. They're kind of like the upper limit in a lot of ways, and you have to pay for them like it. They cost 20k to pity these things. I'm sorry, is it 20 or 40? 10? No, I think they're like 40k. They're like getting a new unit. So the fact that you can just pick these is pretty broken in some ways. Like, and you definitely should get a number of the Dark VCs, because your chances of pulling them outside of this are far worse than everything else that is offered. But also, secondly, while they are not the only vision cards that do this, they do inherently all come with an Esper, and that the Espers in general are some of the best of their type in the game. Finally, Chaos Bahamut, like, the VC isn't the best. If you're doing light or dark though, amazing. Definitely, for either one or both of those, it's great. But that's not why you get Dark Bahamut. You get Dark Bahamut because he is an incredibly flexible physical DPS damage booster, essentially. And because of this, like, for slash units, there's a lot of Espers that increase slash attack. For magic units, there's a lot of Espers that increase magic attack. But there aren't a lot of Espers that necessarily increase, like, missile or pierce or strike. And because of that, having a general Esper like this that just builds everybody's attack power up independent of their attacking type makes Chaos Bahamut the best Esper for most pierce, strike, or missile units. And still ends up being one of the best or better Espers on basically any other physically based unit. Also, he's pretty fast, which is just great. So that's a card that I recommend everyone get, because there's a 1 in 4 chance that the card will actually end up being useful for you, in my approximation. But I think everyone and almost every unit in the game is going to benefit from Dark Bahamut. The other thing that I'm going to say, in the select UR poll that has the newest unit set, you're going to notice this one has Jueme the Spring Celestial. That's the one you want to get. There's not even a question. There is not another unit in this pool that is this good. Get her. She is a next generation unit. She is the new generation of units. And she will be as good as anything that you could pull on a banner going forward for some time. Eventually, into the future, just to future-proof this video just a little bit, you also might be able to get Gilgamesh on this banner. I'm not sure, like, new Gilgamesh, 2024 Gilgamesh. But I'm not sure how long it's going to take for them to start offering that to new players, as, I mean, honestly, the unit's still about 2 weeks away from being released in Global to begin with. And they're probably going to give a grace window of maybe a month, so, you know, maybe in 2 months you're watching this video and you're like, oh, I could get Gilgamesh here. And really, this is going to be any next generation non-limited unit at 100 cost. But currently, there's only one of those, and it's Jueme. This is also going to affect some of the other choices that I make, because you've got a great water greatsword unit, no matter what start you get. So some things are just going to work for everybody. But for the general path, the first option you want to consider is building Tifa. And for this one, I would say, like, if you can afford it. It's not expensive. If you're not pulling for a collaboration unit this time, then probably, but if you are pulling for one, you probably can't afford it. That's what I'm saying. And if you can't, if you have another collaboration unit that you're building, you don't need Tifa necessarily, so you'll be fine. Then, on your first select UR pull, you want to get Jueme. Then you're going to find the guild battle select pulls. These are going to offer you 4 pulls with one of 3 options. For the first pull on the general path, I would recommend Shalza. Shalza is just the best of these limited cost units. And like, I do like the other ones. The other ones are actually newer than her, and they are appealing. But generally speaking, this unit is the best support in the game in a lot of ways, especially at a very limited cost. So you're probably going to find ways to use her no matter who you are. whereas Bronwell or Grifford are definitely better for certain people, but I think Shalza helps more generally. Howlet 2023 Dark Fina Glaciella Flagbearer Perform for the third option, or for the second pull. Let's go with Glaciella. She's just the best of these three units, and I think the one that could most lead a modern team. Speaking of people who could lead a modern team, though, Alaya the Alabaster out of Melnia and Winged Stern, I think is just the best on her own. She was broken when she came out. She hasn't really been upgraded in like a year. Yeah, it's almost been a year. But she hasn't needed it. She's still one of the strongest units that you're going to find. And if you want to play Lightning, like, this girl is going to be the backbone of your team into the near future. Best non-limited Lightning unit by a mile. Finally, for the fourth pull, we have Sol, Young Elda, and Young Helena. So, generally speaking, I would say that Young Helena and Young Elda are stronger than Sol, but there's definitely teams here that are going to want Sol. I mean, Fire and Sephiroth, definitely. I think maybe that's the only one that I picked him for, actually. I do really like the other two units a lot. But Sol is very powerful. Just because I picked the other two very consistently over him, doesn't mean that he's not good. And he's also a unit that I've never personally played with, so I have a little bit of a bias against him because I played the other two units. I love them both. He is probably on that power level though, and definitely worth considering. But generally speaking, I would say go for Young Elda here. And the reason for that is that he's just an amazing combination with Jueme. But also, we've already picked Glaciella Flagbearer for form, so potentially, between these three units, you are one unit away from going Water, you are one unit away from going Pierce, oh yeah, those are the two options. So you have two strong synergies here that could just be built out by like one more unit. So you have a really good start on a couple different dynamics. And then the unit that you're hoping for, the one that you're hoping that you luck into with your pulls, because, you know, these are all attached to 10 pulls, so you have 9 other chances to get something else that you want. And you're probably not going to get a ton of, like, you are brand new units this way, but you might. And if you have a little bit of money to pay into the system, I think one more guaranteed pull. You could even essentially use your mind to pity these characters if you wanted to, and these would be the ones that you would pity. So for the particular path, I'd say the unit that you're hoping to pull is Young Helena, because, I mean, out of all the units you could possibly pull, you've already got Jueme, you've already got Elda. I think Helena's probably the best. Other than that, the other character that I would say, and I actually do want to add this. This is really solid. But that would be Gernsback. And the reason I say Gernsback here is because he's a Water and Pierce unit. So those two teams I told you almost had built. If you pull Gernsback, you have a third unit for either one. So that would be a really strong choice and a pretty recent unit. Also at a little bit of a discount. So for vision cards, the priority that I pick for this is Chaos Bahamut. I mean, it's just the best vision card Esper combo to have as you're starting out. This is the one you want. This is the one everybody wants. This is the most premium, like, vision card in the game. Get it. Secondly, the other one that's generally very good is Chaos Odin. We're going to see him more on this list, and Chaos Odin is going to be a Ice and Water card. So this is also a particularly good card for Jueme. So at this point, we've got a good vision card for Jueme. We've got a good Esper for Jueme. Actually, 2. Chaos Odin isn't bad himself. Chaos Efreet. The reason I'm picking Efreet here specifically, this is going to be a Fire and Lightning card. So at this point, we've covered... But there's 2 reasons I'm picking Chaos Efreet here. One of them is going to be that this is one of the better evasion Espers. Now, I guess you do already have Chaos Odin. Yeah, I'm changing my mind a little bit here. Oops. This is going to be an agility job-based VC that's going to work for a number of units that you have already. So, especially if you're going the spear route here with Glaciella, Elza, and Gernsback, this is going to be a great agility card, but I think it also works for Greatsword. So if you expand out from Jueme to Greatsword, you could also do pretty well there. Third select I guess fourth select VC at this point, but these are the 3 steps that you have to pay for. Third of those steps is going to be Chaos Rama. This is going to be a good card for lightning and wind. This might help you build out from Glaciella, but also it's gonna, I mean, neither one of them really want to equip it because it's more magical, and this is also going to give you a magical Esper. Like, it's good to cover that base too. But of the magical Chaos Espers that you could have, I would say this one probably works better with your team, although there is probably an argument to be made for even Chaos Shiva. And then the card you're hoping for, or the card that you're going to be paying for, is In Order to Change the World. This, because it is a agility job based card that is going to work for Jueme specifically, and maybe some other people on your team as well. But this path is kind of chaotic. It's kind of all over the place. But speaking of chaotic paths, let's go with water. Let's build into Jueme as much as we possibly can and go with a water chaos route, which also means that we're going to be picking for currently primarily ice, but also a bit of earth, because those are the chaos synergies for water, and water's chaos synergies are actually built out surprisingly well. So for this line, you're going to be doing Jueme first, and then from there, if you're going for more of a Greatsword synergy, Bronwell's the way to go. If you're going for more of a Chaos Esper synergy, and you're going to be getting at least 2 of the Chaos Espers that would work for this, you could go for Grifford. He's a powerful ice unit. Axe Knight is a really cool job, and he has the ability to put people to sleep, so he can sometimes play like young Helena. That's pretty interesting for him, although he's a lower faith unit, so he's not really going to get the sleep as often as she would. For your second guild battle select, go with Howlet. He's going to be probably one of the stronger ice units that you could get in general in this way, so you know, welcome to the team. Then for your third choice, go with Melnia. Melnia is going to give you something that will partner into a Chaos Siren team. Melnia could help bridge the gap into Earth, or she could just be your one-off Earth unit. Also, this could work really well, like the Chaos Synergies work specifically well in Guild Battle, I would say, because you can really build bait teams for defense, and defense teams don't really function in the same, like bait as a concept doesn't really work in Arena, because you can just check out everything about your opponents before you fight them. And then finally, I would say Young Elda. Obviously, he's the water pierce unit here, so he's going to be the one that you want. You know, this is building up our, you know, there weren't other water units. We couldn't build a third water unit from this, so we're going to be hoping for a third water unit. We're going to be hoping for Amnilus specifically, although Gernsback wouldn't be bad either for the reasons that I said earlier, but I think Young Elda, Jueme, and Omnilus would be the stronger non-limited team by a bit, even though there is a Gernsback Elda synergy. The reason that I picked Omnilus over Gernsback here, though, is that you don't have Glaciella Flagbearer Reform, so you don't really have anybody to fill out that third slot on a piercing team in the same way that you would on the general path. Chaos Siren is your first pull here, and this is it's your water agility card, which is just incredibly powerful. B, it's also an Earth Agility card, which is really going to help out Melnia as well. But C, it's also a Magic Esper, so you're getting both a really physical vision card that's just great for water and earth physical. It's going to help, you know, like a Jueme Melnia young Elda team would all benefit from this tremendously. But it's also going to give you a magic Esper, and again, that's one of the bases that you might want to cover, because Howlet, say, for instance, Omnilus, they're both going to want someone like Chaos Siren as an Esper, and there aren't as many magic Espers, so you really, or aren't as many good ones especially, so you really want something like this. Chaos Odin, because the vision card is just the other kind of must-have water vision card, especially for offensive physical. It's also going to help you with some of your defensive resistances too. Chaos Bahamut, just because, you know, this is a great Esper, though I still think that Chaos Bahamut is important to have within your guaranteed pulls, because it's going to be a lot more easy to luck into in order to change the world, which again I'm getting mainly for the Jueme synergy, but also because of the Jueme Bronwell potential synergy. Like, that's what that's going to be strongest for, bridging that gap. For Cloud, we're going with a very similar path here, so Cloud and Light. But so this is kind of like, well, let's not even necessarily say Cloud, but like Greatsword Light, because that's really what it is. So in that case, let's say we're hoping for Cloud here. So you're probably not building Tifa with this one, where you might want to build her for Water Chaos. Just having another good ice unit might be good for that. You want to go for Jueme, that's going to be your combo with Cloud for Greatsword. You're going to fill that team out with Bronwell. I'm not really sure who to pick between Howlet, Darkfina, and Glaciella. That's up to you for this one. But you definitely want to pick up Stern, Wing of Destiny for a light synergy, and then Young Helena. Because these last three units all by themselves are one of the strongest light teams in the game at the moment. So like, you have a great light team right here. They just handed it to you. But also, not one of the strongest greatsword teams in the game necessarily, but these three units are also a really great greatsword team. And I think this is maybe one of my favorite paths. Personally, it's the one that I went through in the video. Greatsword, a Jueme Cloud synergy. For this, you're going to want a Moment's Peace. A Moment's Peace is really powerful on Cloud. It's really good for greatswords. It's another way, a stacking way of adding in more AoE resistance. Is also a way to stack the AoE resistance that naturally exists on Cloud in a way that basically no other unit can at this moment, and in a way that is going to give him some resistance to AoE penetration into the future, which will be coming shortly. In order to change the world is, I would say, the primary agility card for Greatsword. That's why I've picked it in the previous two paths, because both of them have Jueme at their center, so both of them want to be able to build towards Greatsword if they can. In order to change the world is a good way of covering your bases there. What is this? Zenith of the Stars, I think? Zenith Between the Stars or something. I could only remember the word Zenith when I was writing this out. This is Soul's Vision card, and also another Agility Greatsword Vision card. This one is magically oriented though, which isn't necessarily the best for Greatsword, because there aren't really any magic Greatsword units except for one, and he's not great. So, oof. But it is still good to have that agility combo. Like, if you've got that on your greatsword team, then you've already won half the battle with a third of the vision card. Do you know what I mean? It's just the best way to have a big impact. But also, Chaos Bahamut is going to be really important for this team as a vision card. Definitely a great Esper for the team, but also still good vision card for light, especially light slash. So Cloud is definitely going to see a big damage increase from Chaos Bahamut. So teams that can run those two together are going to be pretty strong. And then finally, the one you're hoping for, or maybe trying to guaranteed pull, is the original Bahamut. This is one of the light agility vision cards. It was like the first super high tier Esper in the game, and it still holds out as being quite good. It is, unlike Dark Bahamut, magically oriented, which I think holds it back a little bit. It also is a little bit older, but it is a very good vision card to have for a light team. So especially if you're building more in the light direction than Greatsword, amazing one to have on your side. Then looking at Fire and Sephiroth, we're not building Tifa, we're grabbing Jueme, but we're also going to go with Shalza, Darkfina, and Soul. So Sephiroth, Fire Sephiroth, just Sephiroth in general, as a Katana unit, tends to have a lot of synergies with dark characters, because the original Sephiroth was kind of released around the beginning of the Job VC era, and therefore a lot of the early Job VCs that feature Katana also feature other job types that are favorable for dark. So the potential synergies between some of the vision cards that are going to work for Sephiroth are also going to work pretty well for Soul or Darkfina, but also Shalza. So like all of these characters work really well into it, but Sephiroth, Shalza, and Soul is like one of the strongest fire teams in the game, so you can't go wrong there either. And then Jueme and Fire Sephiroth are pretty great together as well, so I wouldn't knock that either. I'm not exactly sure who to say with Elia the Alabaster, Melnia, or Stern, but maybe I do. I don't know. I think you could make arguments for a lot of them in some way, none of them being ideal. But I think Elia is just the one that would be the most absurd on this team and powerful, even though no real synergy to be spoken of. I think she's strong enough on her own that she could play into Sephiroth's kind of rush play style the best. In fact, some of her best skills remind me of the same reasons that I'm going to be pushing for as your optional pull here, Sweetheart Ildira. But on the other hand, if we can go another direction with this, maybe Hio. Hio would be the higher cost choice. Sweetheart Ildira will be a little bit of a discount unit, but Hio wasn't quite as popular as a fire unit, and I don't think that he's really the best, but he is one of the best that fire has, for sure, when you look at the limited pool, but also as a greatsword unit, good synergy with Jueme, so this could be kind of building into your second team that has some basis around fire, while also still building out your fire repertoire for having more people to play with Sephiroth. For VCs here, you're going to want to start with Trove of Knowledge. Trove of Knowledge is an agility vision card for Katana. So, in addition to other job types, I think it's also for... or maybe it's a defensive card. It's very good for Katana, though. Chaos Bahamut to get yourself, best Esper in the game. Chaos Ifrit, so this is a lightning and fire vision card. Lightning and fire. Oh, also, well, I guess Elia actually really benefits from Chaos Ifrit here, so that helps me make that choice. But this is also going to be a good Esper for evasion, so this is going to work really well for Sweetheart Ildira. In fact, it's basically a requirement for her to actually function, that she has Chaos Ifrit, so you definitely want to get this for her. But also the defense penetration, like, it's a super offensive card for both of those. It could build up synergies where you could have, lightning protecting fire. Not necessarily the unit pool that we're looking at here, unless you pull some cool lightning units in addition to this. That you'll really be able to build that team well, but it is something you could build into the future. It's also just a really strong card for like such an offensive playstyle and element setup right now. So it's a must-have Esper and VC for this team. And then Greater Demon, this one was really important for Dark Sephiroth. This was really important for tying him into a lot of those older teams. And it's going to help give him synergy with Dark Fina as well. So, really good card. This is also an agility vision card, so it's going to be another agility card for Katana, which is helping build out, you know, again, this is where I would say you start. Like, you start with agility, and then you go out into, I would say single target resistance, maybe the most important at the moment, especially with AoE resistance penetration coming, and then building up AoE resistance as well. Those are the three things that you really want to focus on. And then everything else that comes with that is just icing on the cake, essentially. So definitely focus on getting those agility cards first. And then remaining blessings. Oh, man. I need a cheat sheet for these. FFS. Why has WotV Calc been like this lately? Okay. Remaining Blessings, though, is the one that I definitely had access to card data when I made that decision, even if I don't remember exactly what it does. You are a bit of a broad concept for a video. Okay, moving into Tifa Gilgamesh. So you're definitely building Tifa for this one. You're trying to build up that ice partner for Gilgamesh. And when I say Gilgamesh, I mean the Gilgamesh that is still about 2 weeks out. So you're going to be saving up to pull Gilgamesh after the collaboration. So A, you're not building a collaboration unit, so you should build Tifa. But B, you're not building a collaboration unit, so you can save for the next non-limited unit to come out. For this one, we're going with Jueme, obviously, Grifford, and Howlet because they're your ice units that are available from this pool. Alaya the Alabaster because I think in most ways she's just stronger and makes better sense with these units, but also as like probably the most powerful strike unit in some ways. Her and Tifa being two of the most powerful strike units. I mean, you've basically got a really strong strike team there. So that builds you towards that. That's more of a call out to Tifa's specialties than Gilgamesh's. Young Elda, just because I think water works really well with ice. We're going to be getting some water ice synergy cards in the VCs, so Elda could work onto this team as well. And he's a really strong character to do it as too, so good for him. And then what you're kind of hoping to pull here is Uriel. Uriel would be the third part of that strike team I was mentioning earlier. But also Jaden the Celebrated. This is going to give you a little bit more synergy with Elda, since this is going to be an ice spear Jaden. But also another ice unit for your team. I guess you could also potentially go with Reagan. Also not a bad unit. That would be more physical, though. And probably a good counterpoint to Howlet on a lot of teams. So I guess you could consider that as well. Going through the vision cards, we already know what a lot of these do. So Chaos Odin, Chaos Shiva, those are going to be physical and magical respectively. Both defensive and I think Shiva's an agility card. But both of those are for ice and water. So this is going to be building out ice, but also building out water synergies. Seaside Showdown is a strike VC that also works for red mages. The reason that that's important is that that's going to work for both Tifa and Gilgamesh and help maybe fuse them together with the third unit later on, give you a little bit more flexibility with them. And then Chaos Golem, this is going to be a more defensive magical card, and Esper, I don't think we've mentioned Chaos Golem yet. Definitely a lot more defensive, but this is going to be a magically oriented version of Golem. It is also going to be a ice and earth card, so this is going to help build synergies perhaps with like Uriel or with other earth units into the future. This could be helpful for you. And then if you want to double down on those, you could hope you pull Dark Titan. This is one of the only cards in here that I'm recommending that there is no way to guarantee. So this is definitely one that you'll have to luck out on. But if you want to build out your ice a little bit further, because you have great chaos VCs here, it's really easy to build into into ice already. The Lastwell vision card, Mystical Frostflower of Mystical Ice, Lastwell or whatever. That's your agility card. It's also a good damage booster, so really solid card for ice. Those are really the paths that I would recommend. These other ones, they're not doing great now. They may be good into the future. Maybe there's some reason that you like this element or this style of team better for some reason. But if you want to go for Earth, maybe you build Tifa. There are some synergies between Earth and Ice. It could work out for you, and there's not a collaboration unit that you necessarily want to pull for, so you can probably afford it, but I'm not sure she's the best choice. Obviously you're getting Jueme. If you're trying to build into more ice, Grifford and Howlett certainly allow that, and that also there aren't really many Earth choices here, except for Melnia, so we picked her up. And then young Elda, because he fits into kind of the chaos synergies between Earth and Ice and Water, so he could work for that too. But also, especially if you're building Tifa, Uriel's a cool choice. But I think overall, for the non-limited Earth units that aren't already here, you probably want to go with Queen Mashari. And then for your vision cards, Chaos Siren, Chaos Bahamut, Chaos Golem. So covering an Earth combo with both Ice and Water here, while also getting Chaos Bahamut. Alpha Kairos is an Earth Agility card, but also a defensive Earth VC that you'll want. This is a pretty decent roll compression of two of the three things that I was talking about vision cards really needing at a baseline earlier. And then Dark Titan. Again, you'll have to luck into this one. There's no way to necessarily guarantee it, but it is a really strong Earth vision card. Good Earth Esper as well, so really good 2-in-1 there. More specific to Earth, I think. But, you know, Earth and Ice are both going to want this guy. And then for Wind / really Spear, I'm kind of building this one around Glaciella. You're probably not going for Tifa here, though. I don't see her really doing too much with this team. You're getting Jueme. Not really sure how to go with the first choice here, so I'm going to kind of ignore that. Also the third choice. But you're definitely getting Glaciella and Elda, so that's going to be kind of your Spear and Wind. While you could build from this, you have, again, a start into Wind and Water, kind of the same way you did on the general path. Just not great. Soddly Christhea, he's going to be able to charm people and just generally cause chaos on the battlefield. He's not the strongest unit, but his pinch-off for chaos is just so high that he can still win matches he has no business doing so. Also, if you want to build out your Pierce team, probably one of the better Pierce units in the non-limited pool is Jaden the Celebrated. It's kind of the counterpart to Elia the Alabaster that was nowhere near as broken or popular, but still a pretty good unit. I've already actually recommended him once for Ice as well. And then for vision cards, we're going to go with Trove of Knowledge and Blood of the Future to get that Pierce baseline taken care of. Chaos Bahamut's especially important here because Pierce is really going to need a general physical boost, even though this wouldn't really work for Jaden. And then we have Chaos Tetra. Chaos Tetra Sulfid is Wind and Fire, so that's a pretty neat combination, but also a strong Esper and Vision card for Wind. And then Chaos Rama, which is going to be kind of the same thing, but also a magically based Esper, so you're getting one of those. It's going to help for Jaden specifically. But this Vision card is also going to be helpful for bringing in maybe some synergies with Lightning. So that makes me say Elia. It's not hard for me to want to pick her here. Let's see. And I guess there's synergy with Fire, so Shalza. Okay, Glaciella and Shalza. They fit with the Vision cards. Moving on to Dark, probably not building Tifa here. Getting Jueme, Bronwell is your Dark unit, so is Dark Fina. You got 2 parts of your Dark team here. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but also, Dark has been so up the butt of limited for a while now that this team doesn't particularly seem appealing to me, even though it's, you know, definitely doable. Really don't know who to pick with the Alaya, Melnia, Stern choice, but I guess Stern. And I would say that's because he has a synergy with Chaos Bahamut. This is going to be one of the only elements that actually uses the Chaos Bahamut VC. They're not just getting this to get a great Esper. So I think having Stern to kind of fill out that team potentially could be pretty helpful. And then Young Helena, because Dark also has decent synergies with like Black Mage stuff, and Young Helena's a really powerful Black Mage type unit. So she could be really helpful for certain potential teams that kind of spring from some of the vision cards and places that Dark goes. But also, she can also kind of work with Chaos Bahamut, so she's building into your Light and Dark synergy. But that being said, this feels like it has some of the cool parts of Light without having any of the real, like, it doesn't have Cloud. For vision cards, also a Moment's Peace is going to work really well here. Greater Demon just has historically been kind of a glue card for Dark. A big part of that is the original Sephiroth, and as a new player you're not going to have access to that, but a lot of the other Dark units that worked with him will also work with this card. So if you pull, like, say, Roth into the future, maybe off of because she's only semi-limited, you could get her if you wanted to, and she'll be okay. Not something I'd be excited about, but sure. You know, Greater Demon is really going to help for her in order to change the world. And finally, Anima. Anima is one of the only, like, Chaos power level Espers that was released that was only one element. It's just Dark. That's also not, quote-unquote, a Dark Esper. Like, it doesn't have Dark in its name. It's not Dark Anima, it's just Anima. Anima himself is dark enough. We didn't need to make him darker, I guess. And, like, if you know the story behind Anima from Final Fantasy X, yeah, he's this is all Anima is Dark Anima. And then finally for Lightning. For Lightning, you're definitely building Tifa, because Tifa is going to be synergistic with your strongest possible unit that you can get out of this pool, and that's going to be Elia the Alabaster. So good combo with that. Also, just in general, anybody who's building a strong synergy team between Tifa and Jueme, as both of these units are basically free right now for your first copy, they both do a lot of sustain through AP drain. Really strong synergy in that respect, and I haven't seen these two together necessarily, but I feel like it would be just such a pain in the ass to deal with. So you got a good start there. And then Shalza, just generally, also because Shalza works into kind of the Chaos Elemental strategy for Lightning. You know, Lightning is going to work with Fire and Wind. We've already seen some of those Chaos Espers before, so we're going to see some of those Vision cards again. Speaking of Lightning working with Fire and Wind, well, that's why we're going for Glaciella, Flagbearer of Reform, and Young Elda, mainly just because he's a high accuracy unit. He'll also work with Glaciella, but one of the biggest issues that water teams have, in my opinion, is they're not very accurate. They don't deal well with evasion, and evasion is really creeping into a point where it's becoming incredibly consistent, if not still relatively uncommon. It's not, and that puts it in a place where it's probably not going to get nerfed. It hasn't taken over the meta, but in the places where it exists, it has, you know? So you almost want to make sure you get the most accurate unit you can, so you really want to get the most accurate unit you can to kind of fix that problem, even though he doesn't really work with their teams. And then you really have to go a ways back to find a non-limited Lightning unit that's great. Reznik is one of the better supports in the game, though, although you've also already got Shalza. Maybe you don't want Shalza. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Also, Uriel, lightning unit, no real synergy here. But you've already built Tifa, you've built Lie of the Alabaster, so this is your third strike unit. Choose the best strike unit in the pool. Also, for the 3 times that I picked Uriel as the extra unit here, I should also mention her TMR is really great to have as you're starting out as well. And then we're gonna put since strike is the strongest combination here, we're gonna go into some strike VCs first with Seaside Showdown and with the Setting Sun, which is specifically gonna give Lie of the Alabaster an increased boost. But this is also going to be the starting core of your strike VC team. Now, I don't think either of these are agility VCs because I'm pretty sure the only agility strike VC is very limited and not coming back anytime soon, so don't you even worry about it. Instead of trying to make them incredibly fast, why don't you just make them punch really, really hard? And these teams are going to help you, these VCs will help you do that. Then we have Salir v. Raychez. This is going to be a very flexible, versatile agility card for a lightning team. This is something you're going to want to have for a future lightning team, even though you don't really have it through these pulls necessarily. Chaos Bahamut is even more important here, I would say, despite the fact that it's my 4th selection. But I think Chaos Bahamut is basically essential for strike teams. Easily the best strike offense Esper, period. Gotta get it. And then finally we have Chaos Ifrit. This is going to help with some evasion if you want to build into that. There aren't really any units in this pool that super benefit from that, but it is a good evasion Esper. But more importantly, it's a really good way of building a synergy between fire and lightning, but also it's just a really offensively impactful card. And well, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with that, but I would say that the other cards, especially since you want to go maybe this is even more strike path than is lightning. Lightning is so out of it right now, at least without limited units, that strike really is the better option still. But at the same time, you know, you want to get yourself some Espers. I don't know. Maybe I'd even put Salir v. Raychez last and Chaos Ifrit, just so you get another Esper in your free pulls. But all that being said, I hope you've enjoyed the video. It hasn't run too long, and I hope that it's really helped you understand how to get what you want in starting this game out. But also, I want you to, if you don't really understand which path you should take, if my explanation here, and look, I talked about so many things in this video and so many different contingencies and plans in this video for so many different players. I've tried to make it comprehensive, but I can't tell you everything about why you would want these teams and why some of them would be better than others. I've got other content for that, so check that out. I've got new player playlists. That's probably going to help you a lot. Also, current events is going to be more of the newer stuff that you'll need. A little combination of both of those as needed should be able to help you get a really good start and not make a lot of the mistakes that a lot of new players make. So, with all that being said, if you did get something out of this, definitely like and subscribe. I'll keep you up to date as we move forward. And also, check out that link in the description, especially if you're new here. There's a lot of other places where I post content on the interwebs. If you could check those out, like and subscribe there as well. But also, I sell books, so if you could check out the links for those will also be in that link, and Linktree Grand. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next one.